Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of AACRAO's Credential Chats. We are joined today by Sharon Manna, who has one of the coolest job titles of anybody I've gotten to interview so far, Dean of Marketable Skills and Digital Badging at Dallas College. Sharon, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Sharon, I just want to start out by just setting the stage that, a lot of, our audience are people who are feeling overwhelmed, scared by this. Everybody feels like they're way behind. And, maybe just by way of introduction, you can let them know just the kind of change management you're dealing with in the last 36 months or less, I guess, at Dallas College that, like the LER and digital badging and micro-credential stuff is almost kind of small potatoes. It's one piece of that puzzle of building the giant plane that you're already flying.
So, I represent Dallas College, and Dallas College before 2021 was the Dallas Community College District. We were seven separately accredited institutions, and then during COVID and the shutdown, we became Dallas College, a singly accredited institution. And that meant change everywhere all the time. And in fact, we are still dealing with the ramifications of changes, stage two, stage three changes. And so we've had to become pretty nimble and acceptant of change. And I've been able to, I personally have benefited, and I think the institution and our students have benefited from being able to be innovative in that space of change. And so I work through our college's Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, was able to start a program called the Marketable Skills Initiative. Did work as a faculty fellow to develop it to help faculty understand what we were wanting to do, which was to give our students a toolkit with which to articulate the things they know and can do because of their time in our classes. That initiative became our Marketable Skills Faculty Integrator Program, which is a application-based, cohort-based, and stipend funded through our Dallas College Foundation endowment now, to have faculty follow a framework to let students know what they are practicing, what skills they are developing, so that they can tell their stories more fully. From that framework and that backing, after a few years of development, that became the really the nexus for our digital badging program. We spent over a year developing it. We implemented it in January of 2025.
And I just want to kind of slow down on this marketable skills initiative because, I think you touched on so much stuff that, the transcript has this very important place in higher education that is not going away of telling the story of the learning that happened in the terms of classes we took, grades we received, when we did it. This is also saying within those classes, there's, learning outcomes that can be met, and some of those crosswalk to marketable skills. And maybe you could just kind of dive in a little bit that these are not, that there's apples to apples kind of work happening at the data level that's not, that goes beyond how we want to describe things to how they might make sense external to Dallas College. And then I
Right.
also, after that, we can dig into how the sort of business process flow. But first, just
Sure.
when we talk about these marketable skills and connecting to learning outcomes, maybe paint a picture of just how cool this is.
Sure. So I'll tell you two quick stories. So first is I'm a political scientist by trade, government instructor for many, many years. And so we had an initiative in Texas called 60 by 30 Texas, which has subsequently been changed. But the idea behind 60 by 30 Texas was that by 2030, 60% of Texas adults 24 to 35 would have some kind of credential. And one of the elements of that program was that there should be notable and findable marketable skills for all programs. And so I was discussing this in class one day in a Texas government class. And I said, well, for instance, in Texas government, what marketable skills do you think you're developing? And a guy in the back said, none. And I realized that if you talk to students, particularly in community colleges, they think that they are doing their basics or checking boxes before they can transfer to a four-year institution. And what they don't understand is that along the way, they are developing and demonstrating important marketable skills. So that was really sort of the foundation of this program. The heart of it, however, is the fact that community college students nationally want to transfer, but they don't. So if they leave us or any community college after 18 credits, what can they show for it? What can they tell employers they can do because they spent time in our classrooms? And so I was thinking about that population, that they needed to have that language, right, and become fluent in it. Not just, oh, I took history and I learned about the Cold War, but I researched, original documents and I engaged in pattern detection, right? And I can do predictions and I can write effectively or present effectively. And so what we did was we took the 6 core objectives that we are required to assess in our core curriculum and we built in an inventory of skills terms. We did this by putting a group of faculty together to look at curated skills inventories. We looked at NACE competencies. We looked at Princeton University's career inventories and a number of other institutions. And then kind of just did a majority rules from our committee of 11 faculty members and created our initial inventory. In 2024, we updated that to align with Lightcast skills terms. And we looked at those Lightcast skills not just in terms of the labels, but also in what was in the highest demand in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah, and just for anybody who doesn't know, Lightcast, formerly Burning Glass, very respected, kind of leader in the data of mapping the skills that employers are looking for to things like uh, job descriptions as well as learning outcomes. So kind of giving us the ability to actually crosswalk from that political science course
And
where the
if you
person's saying, we're not learning anything here that's marketable to saying, well, actually,
Exactly, exactly. And when we looked at those top 100 skills, almost our entire marketable skills inventory was contained therein and within the top 50.
and then, one of the things that's really cool is people say, okay, so you were able to get faculty excited about this because they said, wait, this is stuff we're already doing. It's just
Mm-hmm.
giving me an opportunity to shine light on that and have students instead of leaving me and saying, guess this it doesn't apply anywhere to having the actual, articulation narrative of this is exactly how it applies, to the workplace. In addition to that, you have a really novel solution, I think, at Dallas College for just the business process of, okay, well, how do we actually administrate for over 100,000 learners the ability to credential them in these marketable skills?
Right. So it was the decision of the college that instead of having different departments as issuers or individual faculty as issuers of digital badges, the college issues the digital badge. And the philosophy behind that is simply that there's a reputational or influence to having an institution like Dallas College issue the badge rather than a badge coming from Sharon, Manna. Who knows what that is or why it's important, right? But if you have an institution that is well known in our region and about 90% of our students stay in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so we decided we would create a system where for our skills and competencies badges, students apply for them. They self-attest. And so in order to get a skills badge, a student will apply attesting to successful completion of 2 courses with aligned assignments that are successfully completed as well. So C or better in the course, C or better in the assignment. They provide information on the course, the section, what type of assignment it was, and then a reflection. And the reflection, excuse me, is all about what the assignment was, how it helped the student practice or demonstrate that skill, and what they expect to do with that skill in their post-completion success.
And it almost sounds like, Sharon, you have like this three-legged stool of trust. You have the institutional brand of Dallas College, asserting that this learner, has these skills. So there's trust there. I think very importantly on the faculty side, there's trust that they're not being taken out of the loop. They're the ones who are saying, in my course, here's the
Yes,
marketable skills and here's the assignments that align to that. And I'm being relieved of the administrative burden of having to then, after I grade the assignment, also go and report the learners to the office of the registrar, to Sharon's office to say, hey, let's issue these. That when I grade my assignments, now it's on the learner to say, I think I have this skill. I have the proof from my professor that I passed this assignment that was aligned. I'm now applying, and there's this extra layer of trust of I'm attaching this evidentiary piece of almost like a portfolio component that can then be attached to my badge. And I'm empowered, but I'm also responsible for it. That the
exactly.
administrative burden, you've just saved, a lot of money, I think, on hiring, grad assistants and whatnot in order to help actually
But we don't have
administrate
grad
the program.
assistants. I think you're right. Trust was really the theme as we were building the program. And so we decided that this was going to be something that we could help students really develop their personal brands. And we've been doing some marketing and developing videos, helping students understand that when they are applying for a badge, it is an outward representation of the thing they can do, and they need to treat it as if it were the answer to an interview question. I see
Mm.
you have this effective presentation skills badge. Tell me how you got it.
This is just so well thought out, and I just thank you for being so vulnerable in your sharing as you are truly building just massive planes there at Dallas College Wall, flying them. And I know that you're also a member of the LER
Yes.
Accelerator cohort, and you're doing all these things. One thing just that I'd love to touch on, especially, this AACRAO Credential Chats. I know you mentioned that one of your, kind of key constituents that's a part of these processes is your degree audit coordinator. And so maybe you could just share kind of just who's at the table and the role they're playing specific, maybe if you don't mind touching on the
Sure.
degree audit. Yeah.
We have a pretty broad team that we've developed for our LER Accelerator cohort team. Um, So I lead the team, but we wanted to have representation, very cross-functional representation from all sides of the house. So whereas I represent sort of academics, we have representation on the workforce side. We have representation in our business school. We are starting to develop bachelor's degrees and that are going to be competency based. And so that's a whole other way of credentialing that we need to figure out. We have representation from our credit for prior learning staff, student success in terms of our career services, our student success coaches, which are advisors. Um, Aaron Farrell is the associate dean of degree audit, and so it provides. We want to make sure that when we are credentialing things or we are thinking about an LER solution, that we are hearing from all of our sides of the house so we can determine what the best path forward will be for the most of Dallas College students. And then we're
I,
also trying to like create some efficiencies where we see lots of little pilots of different kinds of solutions and software platforms and what works best, what can be broadened, and quite frankly, what can we eliminate so that students are not overburdened with technology.
just such smart change management. And AACRAO is, along with UPSIA, the producers of the Convergence Conference, which is all about converging these,
Yeah.
things that so often on our campuses are silos and, not just creating inefficiencies, but, things that are not necessarily best for our learners, you
Mhm.
know, as opposed to if we were collaborating. Sharon Manna, Dean of Marketable Skills and Digital Badging. So jealous of that job title at Dallas College. Thank you so much for joining us this week on AACRAO's Credential Chats.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for taking the time and currency of your engagement, viewers, to join us this week. And have a badge worthy week, everybody. Until next time.
Bye.